Hi, my name's Willow, and a few years back something happened at school that really shook my confidence. Since I was a kid, I've always been a good student. You know, the typical teacher's pet with my nose stuck in a book. I always got my homework done early. I aced every test, and I was proud of that. My friends knew how hard I worked, how seriously I took my schoolwork. I was really lucky they accepted that about me. They were great. So when they came to me for extra help, we'd have fun while doing studying together. It seemed great, but then things changed overnight. It all started when our principal announced a new scholarship. She said that the best performing students in each grade would have all their school fees paid. I think everyone wanted to win. I mean, who wouldn't? But a lot of people didn't put in the work. They couldn't be bothered or didn't change what they were doing to be better. As for me, I started working even harder because I knew that my parents could do with the extra money. Plus, I wanted them to be proud of me. Bit by bit, I stopped going out as much. I started to cancel plans and focused mostly on schoolwork. I felt terrible for not seeing my friends, but I really needed a shot at having the scholarship. I put my back out working as hard as I could for it. I think initially my friends didn't mind, but over time, they seemed to begin to resent it. I didn't notice though, at least not until it was too late. Finally, the day of the awards ceremony came. The whole school gathered in the main hall. One by one, the names of the winners were announced. I began to get super anxious and nervous as the names were called out, and mine was nowhere to be heard. I worried I hadn't worked quite hard enough, and everything I'd done would have been for nothing. A little feeling of dread sat in my stomach like a rock, weighing through me. I was so nervous. I think I lost a little more hope with each name called. Time must have passed without me knowing, but finally, the last name was about to be called. That's it, I thought. Everything is over. I was so shocked when the principal said my name. I practically jumped out of my seat with joy. For a moment, I was so full of buzzing excitement and pride, but that happiness didn't last long. Almost immediately, one of my classmates turned around and gave me a really dirty look. You don't deserve this. Your parents have the money. You didn't have to sacrifice anything to get this. I was shocked and embarrassed. The whole of my class had heard what he'd said, and I wanted to disappear into the ground. I'd never been rich. But what nobody knew is that my dad had just got out of several surgeries after a really bad car accident. He'd lost his job and wasn't able to work. My mum had been using all of our family savings for medical bills, and the last bits were just being used to get by. Getting the scholarship was a huge deal to me. This felt like such a punch in the gut. I began to doubt myself. Maybe I hadn't really studied hard or worked enough to deserve this. I felt really ashamed, and like I'd been caught out lying. I'd never thought it was possible that something like this could pull my friends away from me, but over the next week, I realized how much this would change my life, in both good and bad ways. Before, it had seemed like being a top student had pulled my friends closer, and we'd connected over that. Now it just seemed to push them and everyone else away. People at school began to say nasty things when I walked by, laughing and mocking me when I answered questions during class. It seemed like I was being punished for being who I'd always been, and rather than feeling clever, now I felt like a fool. Everyone seemed to think I didn't deserve the money and made sure I knew it at every opportunity. I didn't know what to do. I even thought about giving back the scholarship. When I was at school, it seemed better to lose the money than to lose my friends. But when I went back home, I couldn't bear to do that to my family. It was tearing me apart. I must have looked miserable at school because one of my favorite teachers came to talk to me. She asked what was wrong, and I broke down in tears as I began to tell her everything that had been going on. She listened until I managed to calm down. I was expecting her to blow it off and tell me it was nothing, but instead she smiled at me and said that I should definitely keep the scholarship, that maybe other people were just jealous. She told me that I had worked really hard and always had. It didn't matter what other people said. It only mattered what I believed. I rambled on and said I didn't know what to believe anymore. Maybe everyone else was right about me. I was ashamed, and I worried I might have taken this opportunity away from someone else who deserved it more than I did. She began to laugh a little. I felt awful, like I'd been caught out again somehow. But then she said that if someone else had deserved the opportunity, they would have received it. But I was chosen for a reason because I deserved it in the first place, and nothing had changed about that. She asked me if I'd been working hard all week, even after getting the award. I said yes, and I was confused. Then she asked me the silliest question. Was I going to keep working hard? I smiled as I began to understand her meaning. Of course I would, I always had. Even when my dad was in surgery, I sat in the waiting room surrounded by books, studying while I waited. Things finally seemed to make sense. After the conversation with my teacher, I stopped caring so much about what my classmates were saying, and actually with time, they found another thing more entertaining to talk about. But most importantly, I knew in myself that I deserved every penny of that money because I had worked hard all my life to get me to that point. I decided I wasn't going to let anyone else make me feel bad for that, or for who I was. The fact that it helped my family when they were struggling was the icing on the cake. In the end, my closest friends found out about my dad. They began to understand why the scholarship had been so important for me, and we all started to reconnect. It just goes to show that nobody knows what really goes on in our lives, and they don't have the right to judge us for it. The most important thing is to know who you are and believe in yourself, even when everyone else seems to doubt you. So what do you think of my story? Have you ever won something that's made people jealous or doubt you too? Hit like or leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.